Good morning, my wild and beautiful friends. I'm so glad you're here. If you are like me and find yourself with an insane amount of zucchini this time of year, I have the recipe for you. One bowl, super simple, incredibly delicious zucchini bread. Keep on watching to see how we make it. Okie dokie, guys, here are a few of our zucchini beauties. I'm going to use about a zucchini and a half for this. It's going to yield about 2 cups of grated zucchini. So I've cut off the ends of one of them. And a little bonus to having our tortoise Paloma is I can give her some of our veggie scraps. So instead of going to compost, this little end of zucchini is going to go to our little baby Paloma for a snack. Now back to your regularly scheduled programming. Back to zucchini bread here. I'm going to just grate this zucchini into a bowl here. I've had this grater for maybe 10 years. I think I bought it at the dollar store and it's held up really well. So I'm just using the larger side just because it's a little bit more quick. But however you can do it, get your grate on, get about 2 cups of grated zucchini. If you're feeling ambitious and have a lot of zucchini, I would highly suggest grating a whole bunch of it. Then we're going to squeeze out the juices. And once you've got the juices out of here, you can freeze whatever you're not going to use. And then when you're not sick of zucchini and eating it every day, like this time of year tends to be, you can make yourself some zucchini bread or add it to soup or even add it to smoothies for some added bulk and texture and nutrition, of course. So like I said, I'm just going to squeeze out some of the excess liquid in our zucchini here so we don't thin out our batter and we just have like the actual vegetable instead of a ton of water, since these do have a lot of water in them. As you can see, it's already given off some of that pretty green liquid there. So I'm just going to fold up all the edges of our tea towel, and depending on how much zucchini you have and how big your tea towel is, you're going to try to like twist it together like a little pouch. And as you can see, it's already coming out. So I'm just twisting it, squeezing out that juice. It's kind of incredible how much juice comes out of these guys. So you don't have to go crazy. I just do a nice good squeeze for about 30 seconds and then we're looking good. All that excess moisture tends to come out pretty easily. And then you are left with all the goods to put into your bread without thinning out your batter or making it watered down at all. So I've got a big bowl here. We're going to dump literally everything into one bowl. It's so simple. So I'm going to start with 2 cups of all-purpose flour. And then to that, I'm going to add a 1/2 cup of oats. Then 1 teaspoon of baking powder and 1 teaspoon of baking soda. Then I'm going to add some spices. I've got 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. We're at the end of our container, but I think we can get a 1/2 teaspoon of ground ginger out of this little guy here. Little bit of eyeballing happening around here, but it'll do. We're at about a 1/2 teaspoon. So now let's talk nutmeg. You can absolutely use pre-ground nutmeg and it's fabulous in this recipe, but if you can get your hands on some whole nutmegs and grind it yourself, it is a total baking game changer. Plus it's really nice to have around if you're going to make a homemade chai or even just for garnish for cocktails or something like that in the wintertime. It's just so much more robust than the pre-ground stuff, and I really think it does make a difference. So either way you cut it, we're going to do about 1/4 teaspoon of ground nutmeg. And then I'm going to add a 1/2 cup of brown sugar. I like using brown sugar. I'm using light for this recipe because it just kind of adds a little bit of a caramely factor to the cake. And then before we add our wet ingredients and our zucchini, I'm just going to kind of mix around everything with a spatula to get all of our ingredients kind of incorporated before we start mixing anything else in. Once we start adding our wet ingredients, we really want to mix as little as possible. So this kind of helps cut down on that mixing. So I'm just going to add in a full can of full-fat coconut milk. I love that we can literally just dump everything into a bowl for this recipe and it comes together so easily. So to that can of coconut and the rest of our ingredients, I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. And then I'm just going to give it a really rough stir to get everything just basically barely incorporated, like so. And once our batter kind of comes together like this, it's been about 10 seconds of mixing. I'm going to sprinkle in our beautiful fresh zucchini. I'm going to kind of try to break it up a little bit before I stir it in so it'll incorporate a little bit more quickly. And once we have full zucchini incorporation, you are ready to add some more goodies before we throw it in the oven. You can of course leave it like this, but who doesn't love a good golden raisin or a walnut, right? So I personally prefer golden raisins to regular raisins. I think they're a little bit more plump and have more mild and sweet of a flavor. You can totally use regular raisins, absolutely use walnuts if that's your jam, but I'm going to sprinkle in about a cup of these golden raisins and we're going to call that good. And again, we're going to stir these little babies up until they're just barely incorporated, and we will be almost ready to throw this in the oven. Okay, folks, last but certainly not least ingredient. The very last thing we're going to add is 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. So the reason why I'm adding it last is because the apple cider vinegar is going to react with the baking soda that we've put in our batter already, and it's going to give us a really nice fluffy lift to our zucchini bread. And in my very amateur baking opinion, by adding that very last, we're going to maximize the oomph from that reaction. So we got our batter. I've got this little 3-pack of small loaf pans here. I'm using these disposables because honestly, I don't have a loaf pan right now. And then I can share and make little ones. So we can give some to Steve's parents and to my aunt and uncle, and one for Steve and I. So I'm just going to spray a little bit of canola oil spray on here so they don't stick. After splitting these up into 3 pans, I think I probably could have gotten away with making 2 thicker loaves instead of the 3 slightly thinner loaves, but this worked just as well, and they cooked really evenly, so all is good. I'm just using an ice cream scooper so I can kind of measure a little bit more accurately, but really just divide it between the 3. I've got my oven preheated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and once these are filled up, we're going to load them onto a cookie sheet and into the oven. Perk of vegan baking, you can always lick the batter. So depending on your oven, it takes about 40 minutes for these to cook all the way through. I test them at about 35 minutes by using a toothpick or a knife, and if your knife comes out clean or your toothpick, you are good to go. So here they are. You can see where I used that knife before. And my mom was over, so we may have taste tested before I remembered to video cutting through one of these guys. So you know it's good, right? We've already been through like half the loaf here. So these are the other 2 loaves, and just give you a little idea of what it looks like and how I like to serve it. I really wish you could smell my kitchen right now. It totally smells like fall amazingness, and I'm clearly struggling to get this little guy out of the pan there. But look at that, it's nice and fluffy. Still really warm, so I'm going to add a little bit of vegan butter just to make it that much more decadent. And there you have it, super simple, incredibly delicious zucchini bread, all made in one bowl. I really hope you guys love this recipe as much as I do. Thanks so much for watching. I can't wait to talk to you soon. Cheers.